Well, a very warm welcome to another Reeling Back the Years on Fishing Tale Films with me, Russ Evans. This is episode 17. Now, this will be the last episode for a little while, Reeling Back the Years, and I'll explain that a bit later after this story. And do you ever get those days that just stick in your mind forever? Even if they might be many, many years ago, as this story is. Well, this day is always stuck in my mind. It always comes back as a regular memory for no apparent reason, but sometimes it does. I suppose when I sort of talk about fishing canals and places like that, then this particular day that I'm going to talk about just gets triggered and comes back into my mind, my thought process. Well, I'm going back to, I reckon it was round about 1980, maybe 79, but 80. And in them days, I either walked to my fishing sessions, or so I either walked, biked, got a lift from my dad when he started driving, or on many occasions, if I was going a bit further afield, then I'd I'd jump on the bus system, which is something I used to do quite a lot when I was going down to fish the River Lee, especially like Waltham Abbey. If I was going to Cheshunt, I'd get the trains, but I went to Waltham Abbey many times on the bus routes, and a few times my old schoolmates would join me as well. And on this particular occasion, my mate Ricky joined me. He lived in Stratford, so he was nearer at the far end to where we used to pick the bus up. So I'd walk down, I was living at Forest Gate at the time, I'd walk down Forest Lane with my wicker basket, my rod holdall and another little carry bag with my nets in it, and I'd meet him down the bottom end of Forest Lane. We'd then cross over, pick up the 69 bus that would then take us into Chingford Mount. That was the end where the 69 buses went to, and then we'd wait for a connection and pick up the 242, and then that would take us into Waltham Abbey, and we'd get off by the road bridge that went over the canal system. You had the Lee canal, and then you also had the Relief canal as well. That's where I caught that big pike back in 1977. And so anyway, we'd get off at a pub called the Old English Gentleman, which is no longer there now. That's long gone. I think it's just flats there. Whether they knocked it all down and rebuilt it, I think they did actually, and it's now just sort of flats. So we used to get off at the Old English Gentleman, cross over, and then go down the walkway that used to lead us down to the canal towpath. And then there was a lock not far from the road bridge, and you could either fish on the natural bank side or the actual canal towpath section. And on this occasion we fished on the towpath, the canal sort of section. So it was round about November time. It was quite a windy day, if I recall, and it was overcast, so pretty good. And 2 weeks previous to that, I'd had a trip on my own down there, and it was by a chuck. I had lots of I used to fish in them days mainly just a rod and reel. I would have like my Milborough rod. It was like a fiberglass rod, and I'd probably fish with a Mitchell match. I would say it would, or maybe my old Abu reel that I've got up here on the shelf behind me, and just fish basically under the rod tip, catching roach. I remember catching loads of good stamp roach, gudgeon, a few perch thrown in the mix. There'd also be the very odd rudd. Used to pick up the odd rudd every now and then, a rudder turn up, and some skimmers like up to round about the pound mark, maybe a little bit over. busy fishing, and that's just how I used to like it, catching lots and lots of gudgeon, stacks of them, and it was good fishing. So I'd said to Ricky, well, I had a good session down Waltham Abbey recently. Should we go back down there? And because we were looking for somewhere to go, so we ended up going there. So we got the buses, and I guess we'd got to sort of outside the old English Gentleman, probably around about 8ish, maybe a little bit after that. And as we were walking along the canal, I was looking at it and I said, well, it looks a lot clearer. It was quite almost gin clear, which was very unusual. It always had that, I wouldn't say the canals was very sort of like, not like sort of the carp puddles you fish, but it always had a bit of colour to it. But you could see a long, long way down, and I'm thinking, oh, that's unusual. I wonder what's been going on there. Maybe I think because the weather had changed. We used to get proper, winter used to start a lot earlier back in the 70s, the 80s. Well, it seemed to, and where nowadays it's still fairly mild in November, and so whether like the cold weather has started to drop the colour out of the water, which is what it does if you get frosts and stuff. But anyway, thought no more about it and went off to our regular sort of spots. And after about 20 minutes, no sign of a bite. I was using like pinkies and maggots, keeping it simple. Had a little bit of ground bait with us. Do you remember the Kestrel ground bait? Used to get it in yellow, in red, and also natural, free flavours basically, and it's mostly breadcrumb, bit of dust, that sort of stuff. And I brought quite a bit with me. The wicker basket that I was carrying was quite laden full of ground bait, and the plan was to use it so that the journey back was a lot lighter. And I knew it was going to be after 20 minutes. I said to Rick, I said, yeah, have you had any bites? He said, no. I said, no, me too, because we were fishing sort of fairly close together. And I said, oh, this is a bit strange, thought we might have had a gudgeon or two by now. And an hour passed, 2 hours passed, and I thought, this is strange. It was almost like, it actually felt that there was nothing there at all, which was really impossible because it was just full of fish. So we decided to go a bit further away from the road bridge, further down. There was another bridge that went over, and we fished around that area, and the same again, nothing at all. So then we crossed over the bridge and started fishing the natural bank. I thought maybe the fish are, because the water's clear, maybe they've tucked right up in the reeds, so he's fishing close to that, and I would pick up the odd tiny little micro roach, tiny fish. And I think, what is going on here? This is really strange, I was a bit baffled, to be honest. I'd never really come across the canal section at Waltham Abbey being like it. There was no one else fishing at all. We were the only ones fishing. So it's not like we had, we could bounce it off anyone else if they were catching or struggling or whatever. So the morning passed through, and it was weird. Obviously we were together, we were chatting away and having a bit of a laugh, a drink, having something to eat, trying to pass the day away, and but baffled at the fact that we weren't catching any fish. We tried probably about 4 or 5 different spots, nothing at all. The canal was acting weird, and I knew the canal very well. Used to fish it quite a lot. So we walked back over from the natural bank back over to the canalised side of it, tried a few swims, and there it was like, before we knew it was like 2 o'clock, and I'm thinking, wow, I've caught about 2 micro roach. Ricky had caught nothing at all, and this is certainly not what we was expecting. So I said to her, well, the bus back to Chingford Mount leaves the road bridge round about 4:30. It would have been getting sort of dark then. because obviously we were moving into winter. The clocks had gone back, so you had less light then, and so we started creeping back down towards the road bridge, and thought that we'd give it, a couple of goes there. So we carried our rods and a bit clumsy, all our bits and pieces and whatever. And we plonked down. I said, look, I don't intend to carry all this ground bait back with me because it weighed a ton. So I had a bag of red kestrel, I had a bag of yellow kestrel, and also had a half a bag. I'd used about half a bag of the yellow kestrel ground bait up until when we arrived, till about sort of 2:30. This is about 2:30ish now. And so I got my ground bait bowl, poured the yellow in it, and I made it into a bit of a sloppy mix. I probably over wetted it a little bit, so I was swishing it around a bit, letting some of the water soak into it, and then between us we started just chucking it all in, and it was making an almighty round, as the sort of sloppy balls was hitting the lake surface, and it was like really, because it was so clear, it was almost like we was turning the canal yellow. I said, wow, look at how it's all like just, going all like a yellow colour. And we're throwing it in, so we threw all that in, then I mixed up, so that was a bag and a half of yellow ground bait, and then I mixed up my red one and I chucked all that in between us, and just let it settle, and it was just like, sort of, it went all yellow and you could see it just fading away. And so after about 20 minutes I thought, well, at least I ain't got to carry all that back, because it was like a dead weight, and so I cast out, just going through the motions basically, not expecting anything, and all of a sudden the float just buried out of sight. I went, blimey, I've got a bite, and I sort of struck into it, and it was a nice roach like that, probably about 7 or 8 inches long, and I went, netted it, I slipped it into the net. I thought, well, I can actually use the net now, put the net in, cast back out again. Then Ricky caught one, and boom, I had another one, and for an hour it was a bite a chuck. We were catching good quality roach, we was catching gudgeon, we even had a few nice perch as well round that sort of size, and which was good then for the River Lee back then, and a few skimmers and everything, and it was just like someone had got the dinner bell, ding ding, and they started to feed. So, but we made such a row throwing in all the ground bait. It was like just throwing it willy-nilly all over, in like maybe like a 20-foot area around the middle of the canal, just chucking it in everywhere. But it triggered the fish into feeding. But before, there was nothing there at all. So it was a real strange feeling, and we had an hour of fishing, and probably had about, I would say, I had at least 40 fish, 40 to 45 fish. Ricky had quite a few as well. So, and that's always stuck in my mind, that day, of how, I mean, I could have, if I thought to myself, if I thought, well, I'll carry the ground bait back for another day, we wouldn't have had that. We would have gone home almost blank, really, as good as Ricky would have blanked, and I had 2 little tiny fish like that, which was as good as a blank, especially like on the water, as good as that was. So it was just that decision, on the off chance, pure fluke really, that turned a bad day's fishing, because it's always great to be fishing, into a memorable hour. Really, it was quite amazing. Maybe the disturbance, the colour, just antagonised the fish into feeding. Maybe because the canal was so clear, a little bit of colour just triggered them into feeding, until it eventually you know, dispersed, and you could see that it all just went clear again, and then the bite stopped. So the fish were there, but just not feeding. I mean, they had to be there because it was just jam packed with fish, and so it was quite weird, you know. And we often spoke about that day. Remember that day when the ground bait, sloppy ground bait, changed our session that day, and really weird how just making decisions on the off chance can just change a day's fishing into that golden hour, and that's all that we needed that day. We went home, got the buses back, and had a really good day. You know, it turned it into a good day, and obviously the wicker basket was a lot lighter, and we had big old grins on our face because we'd had a good day. You know, it turned it into a good day. So it just goes to show you, by trying something a little bit different, even if it is by a fluke, and it was a fluke really, it's just that I didn't want to carry it back with me, just transformed the session. So yeah, and to be honest, as I grew up into me fishing, I found, especially on like rivers, especially on the River Rother, which is a water that I love to fish, and I've joined a club that's got a few sections of the Rother, so I'll be doing a lot of filming on there. I'm looking forward to that. I attacked in the matches I fished. When I started fishing matches there, I always balled it in. I attacked it, and the fish would respond straight away. So there you go. Obviously sometimes that it'd be like roach to start off with, and then the skimmers would move in. So yeah, it's quite how fish react to how you feed. And that was, although it was a pure fluke that day, it did go in the old brain box, and it was a tactic, became a tactic as I progressed into my fishing, that sometimes when nothing's happening, you need to do something different. And that was certainly different for me at the time, you know, back in 1980, maybe 79, 80, and it worked really well. So a memorable day on the River Lee at Waltham Abbey, back, like I say, in the 1980. Crazy day, and a day that I'll never forget. And if you've had any days like that, drop some comments below, or anything that you did as out of pure desperation. It'd be great to hear your comments on that. But what a day it was. I had some real quality roach as well. Now, the reason why I was saying this might be the last reeling back the years for a while is not because I don't enjoy doing them, because I do. It's because, as I mentioned before on the channel, September onwards, especially till the end of like spring, end of April, is when I become extremely active. My fishing season starts on the 1st of September for me. I love September. It's great for the roach fishing, autumn. So I'll be filming a lot of sort of fishing videos on the roach, on waters, on the rivers. There's a couple of little lakes I want to try, which I'm looking forward to. And then I've already booked a couple of trips, 2 to 3 day trips. One in October, one in November. Going to mix it up a little bit. I mean, I haven't done a night fishing session since last May's National Tench Championships. Now I've got all the bivvies, I've got all the gear, but I've just not got round to do it for whatever reason, many reasons. But so I'm gonna, and I haven't actually done a carp session, like a out and out carp session, for a good 2. In fact, I can't remember. It might have been not last. It certainly weren't last year. It was the year before. Around about September time, I think I've done a carp session. Now, when I say carp sessions, I quite like camping. So when I go carp fishing, it's a bit of camping really for me. I love to chill out. So I've got a 48-hour session booked with my son-in-law Andy, all being well. We're going to go down to this venue, and a place we've not fished before, so it's always exciting to fish somewhere else. And I'll show you around my little setup, my little camping fishing setup, if you like. So hopefully that'll make for a good video as well. And because I do like a little bit of home comforts when I'm fishing, you know, because it makes the experience even more enjoyable. So I've got that coming up in the pipeline. That'll be November time, and because by then I would have been getting into me perch fishing videos as well. So there's lots. I know it's been a bit quiet on the fishing on the bank by the water's edge for many reasons, car being one of them, but that's all sorted now. And so there's lots coming up, so keep in tune. If you've subscribed to the video, hit that notification bell, and if you click on all, every time there is an upload you'll get the notification straight away. Many thanks for all your support, all the subscribers. I've had a few new subscribers lately. Thanks for joining the Fishing Towel Films YouTube channel. It's always great to have your company. Please spread it around to all your mates and like-minded anglers that you think would enjoy the type of videos and films that I produce. And there's some exciting times ahead. So it's going to get busy. The channel's going to explode with lots of fishing content, and I can't wait. So in the meantime, look after yourself. September starts in a couple of days' time, and I'll be out fishing. Looking forward to it. Can't wait. And you'll see some fresh fishing content very, very soon on the channel. Hopefully you'll enjoy it. And let's go fishing. See you soon. Take care, and thanks for watching.